what makes America the greatest country in the world.
Soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen.
Stood up for what was right. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.
It's time we started talking. Pain isn't something we talk about.
All we can ever do for our heroes is remember them, and they gave up two lives. The one they were living and the one they would have lived. They gave up everything for our country, for us. Let's pray for freedom and justice.
Only be a war if soldiers are willing to fight.
Less than 1% of Americans serving in uniform. Some veterans not getting the timely care that they need. The good news is that in recent years we've made historic investments to boost the VA budget.
What is it? Why should we care?
We should care about press freedom
because we were informed.
In democratic societies, free, diverse, and pluralist media enable public debates and are essential checks
You don't
on
look
power.
sad. Let's discuss.
Guys, welcome to Vet the Vet.
What's up?
This is our new podcast, number 14. And we're talking about the undiagnosed Gulf War illnesses. Good thing you guys need to know, especially as the year's coming down to an end.
Yeah, so if it's your first time coming, thanks for listening and thanks for coming. And today, episode number 14, Gulf War illness. And so that's one of the prominent conditions affecting Gulf War veterans. And it's a cluster of medically unexplained chronic symptoms that can include fatigue, headaches, joint pain, insomnia, dizziness, some respiratory disorders, and memory problems. So VA refers to these illnesses as a chronic multisymptom illness and undiagnosed illness, but like we prefer not to use the term Gulf War syndrome when referring to that kind of set of illnesses. Why? Because those symptoms vary extensively or widely.
Yeah.
So, and why we want to do this episode right now, while we're still in the beginning of our podcast, because the deadline was extended by VA recently, and it ends December 31st, 2016.
So if you guys have any issues that are going on, you think it might be due to your deployments, it's good to talk to your doctors and try to get something diagnosed or something on paper before that deadline.
Yeah.
So what's going on is like all veterans, Gulf War vets are eligible for disability compensation for service-connected disabilities that first occurred or were diagnosed during military service. But there is additional way for Gulf War vets to become eligible for compensation without having to prove a disability is directly connected to their service, and that's the presumptive service condition. Very similar to Vietnam vets, other than Vietnam vets don't have a timeline. We do. So make sure you pay attention to that December 31st, 2016 timeline. Many Gulf War veterans have developed multisymptom diseases that have been either misdiagnosed or classified as undiagnosed illnesses. These vets were exposed to chemical hazards as well as vaccinations, whose effects are pretty much unknown. And especially if you're part of the first Gulf War, you're talking about like a lot of the burned up oil fields, things like that you guys probably were breathing for months. Until there was more medical and scientific research on the health consequences of these hazards and vaccinations, the resulting illnesses of Gulf War vets may continue to be misunderstood far after that December 31st, 2016 deadline. For this reason, the VA allows Gulf War vets to be eligible for disability compensation under a rule called Presumptive Service Connection.
Yeah, so we talked about presumptive service connection before, but Joe will give you, if it's the first time listening to the podcast, a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, and so what you're trying to do with the presumptive, a good example is the Vietnam vets, because there's a lot of different disabilities they could lean on. So presumptive for a Vietnam vet, a common one would be diabetes. No matter if your entire family had diabetes and you know when you get older you're going to get it, the fact that you were in Vietnam and you end up getting diabetes 40 years after the fact, 50 years after the fact, you could claim that diabetes as a presumptive due to your service. So a presumptive condition are things that are more likely things that could happen to you because of what you did. and the things you're around. So being presumptively service-connected is a way of qualifying for a disability compensation without proving that the illness was caused or aggravated by military service. So you don't have to show that you had diabetes when you're 19 years old. It's just now that you have it years down the road. When Gulf War vets have what is called qualifying chronic disability, their illness is presumed to be service-connected, and this makes it easier to obtain disability benefits without having those military medical records backing you up.
All right. So what are requirements for presumptive service connection?
One, you want to show that you qualify as a Gulf War vet. So as long as you were deployed during those times, that's one of them. Two, you have what they call a qualifying chronic disability. Three, you want that your disability arose when you're in service, or your disability arose after you came home, and it can be rated at 10% or more.
All right, so those are three elements that would qualify you for that presumptive disability. So, do I qualify as the Gulf War veteran? Like, what kind of question should I ask myself?
You would qualify as a Gulf War vet if you served active in the Southwest Asia during the Persian Gulf War in the following countries or areas, including airspace above these areas. So, like Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Afghanistan, or the UAE. The neutral zones between Iraq and Saudi, the Gulf of Aden, the Gulf of Oman, the Persian Gulf, or the Red Sea. If you served in Turkey or other areas not included above the list that we just mentioned, the VA does not consider you as a Gulf War vet. So even though, let's say you were in during the Gulf War, during the Iraq War, but you were in Germany the whole time, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, pretty much, if you look at your medals or awards, you would be able to figure out if it states one of those countries or those areas.
Yeah.
So Gulf War veterans who meet the criteria do not need to prove a connection between their military service and illness in order to receive a VA disability compensation. And VA presumes certain chronic unexplained symptoms existing for 6 months or more that are related to Gulf War service without regard to cause. So those presumptive illnesses must have appeared during your active duty in those areas, or by December 31st, 2016, and be at least 10% disabled. That's exactly what those three elements Joe previously stated. So what are those illnesses?
Common ones that you see, especially the two ones that are really hard to get diagnosed, especially if you go to the VA right now, is the chronic fatigue, which is a condition of long-term and severe fatigue that is not related by rest and is not directly caused by other conditions. It's incredibly hard to get diagnosed for this thing because they'll try to blame it on anything else. You know, you're too fat, you didn't sleep well last night, you're drinking too much coffee, your medication's making you this way. So if you have a fatigue issue, get it checked out and keep pushing the fact until you get some kind of testing to show you either have it or you don't. Same thing with fibromyalgia. It's a condition characterized by widespread muscle pain. Other symptoms with that are insomnia, stiffness in your body, headaches, memory problems, things like that. You're talking like a lot of pain in your joints, but you're too young to be having these issues, so you know there's something going on. A big common one that you'll see a lot of guys get is the gastrointestinal disorders, like IBS. These conditions are marked by chronic or reoccurring symptoms related to any part of the gastrointestinal tract. Functional condition refers to an abnormal function of an organ without the structural alteration in the tissues. So a common one like that would be the IBS that a lot of us get. Abdominal pain syndrome, things like that. In the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year of 2015, VA denied nearly 82% of claims filed by Gulf War vets for 2 main conditions presumed to be connected to their military service: chronic multi-symptom illness and undiagnosed illnesses. So you see it's getting hard to get diagnosed for these things, and I'm sure it's hard for the VA to diagnose you but you really want to keep pushing it and don't just get blown off, or saying something else. Keep pushing until you get tested for it.
Yeah, I would say don't get discouraged, and I would like to make a little remark on that. Thanks all of you guys who made comments on the posts that we do on social media, and also on a Headed website. So if you got some kind of issues that may be related to one of our podcasts or to one of those illnesses, just talk to each other, make comments, and sometimes myself or Joe would comment if we find it useful, or probably the best way, go see a VSO in the office, and if you're in LA, you can probably go see Joe or some other VSOs. And I would say don't get discouraged, just talk to somebody else, I mean a veteran. Use those forums, use social media, use probably our podcast with information, or any other one, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged, but you got to know those statistics, and what it shows you, I think, it's how much effort you should put to prepare for this or that condition to be, diagnosed or.
Yeah, there's a little bit of work you got to do when it comes to Gulf War illness, but push it, because if you don't push it, then the VA will eventually ignore it and say there's not much of an issue there.
Yeah.
So back each other up.
So, pretty much we covered already most of the stuff that you need to know for those undiagnosed Gulf War illnesses. But right now we'll go into details, like step by step, and give you more specific information for those conditions. So just bear with us. It's going to be the same information, but broken up into pieces.
Yeah. So hopefully something sticks.
Yes. So, that's what my professors always told me.
Mm.
So, if you don't understand the first time listening to the topic, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
If you don't understand it second time when you read it, the information, or you read the textbook, there might be a little issue. But third, fourth, and fifth time, you might want to be seen by a doctor or just do something else. So don't worry, guys. That's just the second time.
Yeah.
So service connection, the basic information, so that Gulf War veterans may obtain disability compensation for disabilities under the same rules as other veterans. No difference. However, there are additional special rules that apply to Gulf War veterans. And what are those special rules?
So special rules, a vet with a qualifying chronic disability, an undiagnosed illness, medically unexplained chronic multisymptom illness, vets with listed infectious diseases, other diseases that may become presumptive in the future as a result of ongoing studies. So that you got to keep in mind as the years go by too, just like the Vietnam vets.
So what are those basic requirements of special Gulf War rules under those conditions that you just mentioned?
So number one of the major requirements, make sure you're a Gulf War vet. 2, you have a qualifying chronic disability or an infectious disease. 3, that condition must be at least 10% disabling within the presumptive period.
So those are basic requirements, but presumptive rules can be rebutted if
affirmative evidence establishes that a disease not occurring during service or was caused by intervening events, or was a result of vet's willful misconduct or abuse of alcohol or drugs. So if you got hepatitis because of a tattoo, or an STD because of some girl or something you're doing, that's on you.
Yeah, that's a bunch of legal words or mumbo jumbo probably for you, but I would say those are specific conditions that VA can actually bring an action to deny you from conditions that you're actually suffering.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
So the definition of a Gulf War vet is someone who served on active duty in the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations. And The places we mentioned were Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi, the Neutral Zone, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Oman, the Gulf of Aden, Gulf of Oman, waters of the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, and the Red Sea are served in the airspace above these locations. So after August 2nd, 1990, and before the ending date set by Congress,
which is 31st December 2016.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of time left, but not much. Includes Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn, things like that. So you're talking 1990 to now. So there's a bunch of guys that are involved here, but make sure that you're diagnosed with these conditions or the VA is not going to help you out. Another thing is vets have to have active service in Afghanistan or after September 19th, 2001 are entitled to the presumptive service connection for infectious diseases even though they weren't in the Southwest Asia. Let's see.
So we talked about qualifying chronic disability, but once again, what is qualifying chronic disability?
Yeah, so a chronic disability is something that lasts at least 6 months or shows intermediate periods of improvement and worsening over at least 6 months. So you kind of go up and down, off and on kind of deal. But you have medical records to show that.
Yeah, actually, an easy way to show it would be, let's say you came to your doctor 10 months ago saying that you got some kind of issues with your bowel that ain't moving right. So you would say, okay, I got issue with my stomach and I don't know what is that. So that would be your first count off date for those 6 months. So next, I don't know, visit that you get probably like 3 months afterwards, and then 6 months afterwards. So you would have three records, three notes of your doctor in your record that something's going on with your stomach.
Yeah.
So kinds of qualifying chronic disabilities can be
anything undiagnosed illness or medically unexplained chronic multisymptom illness like chronic fatigue, chronic fibromyalgia, or a disease that becomes presumptive for Gulf War vets in the future that they haven't figured out yet. And so undiagnosed illnesses is by a history of physical examination, laboratory tests that cannot be attributed to any known clinical diagnosis. So they're trying to figure it out, but there's just no way in hell that they could pinpoint what's going on. It doesn't require to be objective medical evidence. It just has to be medical evidence that's helping support you.
Yeah, pretty much those notes from your doctor that you went to 10 months ago and then 3 months afterwards.
For the undiagnosed illnesses, it can be shown by objective evidence perceptible to an examining physician or non-medical signs that can be independently verified or observed. So lay statements may help you out. The manual M21-1 lists other relevant non-medical evidence events such as time lost from work or evidence vet sought medical treatment for symptoms, or lay medical evidence affirming changes in vet's appearance, physical abilities, mental or emotional attitude. Because you know some of these conditions really play a toll on you.
Yeah, and the reason why we use those kind of sophisticated words sometimes that we don't use in our daily life, because anyway, like whatever is going on with you, you would be using those words in your claim. Yeah. So you'll have to tie your condition to those words that VA uses.
Yeah.
That's why we use them as well.
Yeah, so definitely use their words so they understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to get. And so what they're looking for is a list of signs and symptoms like fatigue, symptoms involving your skin. Headaches is a great common one. Headaches, migraines, similar, it seems the same to us, but for medical professionals, headaches and migraines are two separate issues, but they're both undiagnosed illnesses that you could lean on. Muscle pain, joint pain, neurological signs or symptoms, neurophysiological signs or symptoms, signs or symptoms involving the respiratory system or sleep disturbances. A lot of guys have sleep apnea or insomnia issues, sometimes both. intestinal signs or symptoms, cardiovascular signs or symptoms. I know a lot of guys are coming back with hypertension. And then abnormal weight loss or menstrual disorders for the women vets too. So just because I say guys, don't forget about the women. I'm talking in general.
Yeah, and for sleep disturbances, especially for sleep apnea, I know it's in there in one of those conditions, but this one's going to be difficult to prove because most likely they're going to send you for sleep study, and if it shows something, then yes. If it doesn't show something, then no. So even though that you're entitled for that benefit under undiagnosed Gulf War illnesses, VA still going to make an additional step to prove that you have it or not.
Yeah.
Which is actually confusing by the regulation, but since nobody took care of it before, I don't think it's gonna play in your favor.
Yeah, so if you happen to get diagnosed with sleep apnea, you could absolutely argue it if they deny you. So that's not the end of it when a condition gets denied, but look at why they denied you and bounce off of it and make sure that you brought it up as a undiagnosed Gulf War illness to kind of give yourself better odds if you have to go through appeals.
Yeah. As been said, medically unexplained cluster of symptoms, so a bunch of stuff going on, and you got inconsistent lab results. And remember, those inconsistent results always play in your favor.
Yeah. So, let's see.
So we'll go a little bit in details for each of those diseases. So what is the functional gastrointestinal disorders?
Common ones is IBS, indigestion problems, vomiting, constipation, bloating, abdominal pain syndrome, and difficulty swallowing. Some other ones are for gastrointestinal disorders or abdominal pain, burning or pain, nausea, vomiting, altered bowel habits, diarrhea, compensation, kind of going back and forth, indigestion, bloating, painful or difficulty swallowing, and some of the presumptive infectious diseases are, say, like these are hard ones, like the Q fever, malaria, tuberculosis, salmonella, shingles, West Nile virus, to name a few, but there's a couple of them there, and trying to read them's hard. Presumptive infectious diseases must manifest to a degree of 10% within 1 year from separation from service, except malaria. You could talk to a lot of World War II guys, Korean vets could tell you a lot about malaria. Within 1 year from separation or standard medical medical treatment showing incubation periods begin during service, like malaria could come back and forth. Same thing with TB, anytime after service, there's really no time limit. Long-term health effects of presumptive infectious diseases. The VA does recognize that there are long-term health effects that are potentially associated with these things. Potentially long-term conditions are listed in the 38 CFR 3.317. The VA will examine vets who are presumptively service-connected for a list of infectious diseases and who develop a list of long-term effects. So long-term effects from infectious diseases like the West Nile virus can vary from physical, functional, or cognitive disability. Tuberculosis, you're talking more about your lungs and healthcare outcomes that are due to irreversible tissue damage from severe pulmonary and extrapulmonary tuberculosis. Long-term effects from presumptive infectious diseases like Q fever, hepatitis, post-Q fever, chronic fatigue syndrome, vascular infections.
So
all kinds of stuff.
But if it sounds familiar for you, one of those conditions, then you can still file.
Yeah.
And so resources that can be helpful to win your cases, for those of you who are sophisticated enough to look into websites and regulations, but Probably myself, I would still go to VSO and consult with him. What should I use, or how should I educate myself, besides definitely consulting blog like ours or something else. So you can look at VA cases, VA General Counsel precedents and their opinions, VA training letters, and arguments that VA or VSO or attorney used in these or that cases.
Yeah. And that gives you better odds of understanding where you're going to be fighting.
Mm-hmm. So, VA General Counsel opinion, we would refer to one of old ones from 1998. So that states if a sign or symptom of VET could conceivably be attributed to a no clinical diagnosis, but haven't been, that does not preclude veteran from being awarded service connection for undiagnosed illness, which is pretty good for you.
Yeah.
VA training letter.
Says the regional office personnel must be aware that a variety of disabilities may affect vets with Southwest Asia service. A thorough review of medical evidence associated with these claims is necessary to identify any signs and symptoms potentially associated with Southwest Asia service that are not directly claimed. So hopefully the guys that are judging you are reading through your records and seeing if there's anything there. If you're not sure about it and you have copies of your records, I always say highlight what you think and send it to them that way so you have an idea of trying to get this guy to look at what you're looking at.
Yeah, I would say like in your letter to VA, just use the first paragraph of what just Joe stated, like from VA training letter, and then list a bunch of paperwork that you attach.
Yeah.
And that would mean pretty much, hey, dear VA rating team, please look at all my conditions, because you have to look at them.
Yeah. The training letter helps explain the standard for Gulf War vets to get the exam for Gulf War illness, and it's
pretty low.
Yeah.
So minimum needed is vet's lay description. Lay description means like any description from anybody of symptoms, plus that he was actually in that area.
Yeah.
And that's it. As been said, VA training letter, and attach all the paperwork and list all the symptoms that you have. Let's say you don't have any paperwork, just explain in your own words. And but that would be helpful if your VA record would show that once or twice you went to see a doctor for those symptoms.
Yeah.
So, if after exam the vet is determined to have a diagnosable chronic multisymptom illness with a partially explained etiology or a disease with clear and specific etiology or diagnosis, then service connection cannot be granted under Gulf War Southwest Asia rules. But vet may be able to establish service connection on a direct basis, but not under presumptive rules. So, yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. We gave you a lot of details that probably some of you don't even need, but I hope you would get an understanding on, or would have a large picture of what you can still claim.
Yeah, so get curious about it, because what I see common is the headaches, the stomach issues, the fatigue issues, and the fibromyalgia issues. The headaches and the IBS seem to be fairly easier to claim. The chronic fatigue and the chronic fibromyalgia are a little bit harder, so you're going to have to play that game a little bit more and build those records up a little bit more. I know it's a pain to go to the hospital over and over again, but it's really about yourself and your life and taking care of each other. So try to do it as fast as you can, especially if you have these issues, because after this year, that may be our only chance.
Yeah, I would say probably maybe if you have some of those symptoms, file right now and go to the doctor afterwards. And build your record till end of the year.
Yeah, so you intend to file.
Yeah.
So if you think you have these things and, you know, like some of these guys are kind of lazy and don't want to go to the hospital as much as we should, it might be smart to file an intent to file for these conditions to help build those records up and try to push that December date a little bit more. You know, at least you have that argument.
Yeah.
But look into it. Yeah. So intent to file might be your best bet if you're not diagnosed yet or haven't been seeking the doctor about these conditions.
But this time we might talk another resources that's available to you.
Yeah, the Veterans Ticket Foundation, or VetTix. These guys are pretty awesome. VetTix has a chance to win $20,000 if we receive the most donations by July 6th. So support your military community. But VetTix Foundation is dedicated to give back to the military and veterans and their families with free event tickets around your area.
So pretty much what they're doing right now, they are participating in a charity challenge, which they call Charity Challenge number 4. So they are collecting contributions, but if you don't feel like, you don't have to do it. But what they can do for you, they can give you free tickets. I recently registered on the website and never got any tickets because I never submitted any request to get any, but I know for sure that they communicate with everybody who tries to establish like a direct connection with them. So I sent them a couple emails and got an answer the same day.
Yeah.
And it's VetTix is a non-profit. It's a 501c non-profit organization that was started by 2 Gulf War veterans and dependent of Marine Corps veterans. And it's almost staffed exclusively by veterans and their dependents. So, as Joe said, they offer free tickets to different events going like nationwide. So pretty much once you register on their website, you choose your state and you see what's going on in your state. Definitely you won't see all the events, but you'll see events that for what they have tickets.
Yeah, and they're not bad tickets either. So you're not going to be sitting in the nosebleeds in the corner somewhere. They usually try to give you nice spots.
Yeah, and as always, it's free.
Huh?
So, and to end up the podcast, a call to action, words of wisdom.
Today, every inhabitant of this planet must contemplate the day that when this planet may no longer be habitable. Every man, woman, and child lives under the sword and hangs by the slenderest of threads, capable of being cut at any moment by accident or miscalculation or madness. The weapons of war must be abolished before they abolish us.
So, said by John Kennedy. I don't know if he was killed for that, but it's pretty hard to probably implement, but still, great quote. So that's it, folks. Thanks for listening. Until next time, over and out.